Y'all, I have been practicing sourdough non-stop because I was really wanting to kind of perfect it, or at least make it passable, you know, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least not deeply flawed by Christmas, because I wanted to be able to give loaves of bread for Christmas. I did make this loaf, this is what's left of it, yesterday, and it's my first time to not really badly burn the bottom. I got it right. So I've been baking these in my oven, and the bottom keeps burning. And so I was looking it up, and I was asking some different friends that did sourdough, and they said your oven's probably too small, because I had it as high up as I could have it in the oven while cooking it in that Dutch oven. And obviously, like, I can't help the size of my oven. It's just what's in our mobile home, and that's how big that space is. I can't put a bigger one in or anything. But I did where I put like a cookie sheet underneath the layer under the Dutch oven, and that seemed to help. So I'm troubleshooting, getting it right. I will share with you guys kind of like a cohesive tutorial once I nail down what I'm doing. Now, I have learned that what I really like to do is bulk ferment overnight, like let my dough rise overnight, and then form the loaves in the morning, and then I just put them in the refrigerator all day. And that allows them to slow ferment, and then whenever I take them out and bake them, they just have a more sour flavor, which is, we really like that. So yesterday was my birthday. Thank you all so much for just all of the love. We received several gifts off of our Amazon wish list, several little things like these beautiful paper flowers. How sweet are these? My cousin Jerry came over yesterday morning and brought me a cake and a beautiful sign, and just all over. It was such a wonderful time. We had a great dinner last night. Maya took me, and a couple of our friends came with us to this really nice restaurant in Columbia called Sourdough's. It was just really good. So we had a great time. I had a great birthday. 36. It's gonna be a good year, and I definitely felt incredibly loved by all of you. Y'all, I just filled this pitcher up because I was gonna water my houseplants and managed to spill the top half of that on my shoes. So just changed shoes, or well, took those shoes off and put on dry socks. And you know, sometimes I'm tempted when stuff like that happens to be like, oh dang, it's gonna be one of those days. But no, it's not gonna be one of those days. That's gonna be the most annoying thing that happens in this day today. I'm not gonna have one of those days. Well, I was just watering my houseplants in one of the little pots. I have 2 pots of all my houseplants. Now people say, how do you water your houseplants without them dripping everywhere? I don't get pots that have holes in them. And I use a moisture detector to see how wet the soil is. And so I just put moisture in appropriately where it can't run out. And just make sure you don't overwater them. That way you don't have to water everything in the sink. But I have 2 pots that have a tiny little shallow tray on the bottom, which is a joke. Every time I water them, the water runs out, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forget. So, just did that. It's not gonna be one of those days. It's not, is it, Bear? Is it, Katie? It's not gonna be one of those days. Oh, slipping into this morning routine, milking every day. Do you love it, Maya?
Do I love milking every day?
Yeah. I guess that's a no.
That bird just escaped.
Escape! That gray Americana. Yeah. Y'all, this bird just flew over the electric fence and into the hay holder. She's so pretty, and she lays such a pretty egg. Is she laying her egg in there?
One of the chickens was laying eggs in there, but I haven't seen any in there, but she might be.
So I had a great visit this week with my friend Sunflower Steve. Actually, I have a few more minutes of footage that I shot with him that was kind of cool that I will put in right here. Steve just said it's quiet. Yeah. It stays really quiet out here. It's one of my favorite things about where we live.
Saws are done and...
Yep. Peaceful, huh? Mm-hmm. Well, it is Sunflower Steve's last night on the farm. Oh, look at the heron.
Yep.
Isn't it pretty?
GBH.
Steve likes birds.
Yes, yes, I do.
He actually does. How do you say? Is it falconry?
Yeah,
Is what
falconry.
you
Yeah,
falconry?
It's called falconry.
Here in the South, we say falconry. falconry, which is really, really neat. So he's been showing the kids these really cool photos he takes of his birds hunting. It's really neat.
We use the birds for about as green as you can get for pest eradication and getting rid of squirrels and rabbits.
On a flower farm, the pests are a big deal. And he has hawks, trained hawks, that they use for pest eradication.
Yep.
How cool is that? Yeah, that's organic farming to a new level for sure.
My 13-year-old daughter's helped me train her first bird this year, so she's super excited.
That's amazing.
How many 13-year-old girls get to have a raptor on their fist?
Yeah, that's a hobby that you gotta want to support as a dad. So yeah, we've been kind of doing some bird watching out here, checking out my little lady hawk that I have living here.
Yeah, she's a big one too. She's a big hawk.
She's pretty. But now we're kind of.
Whoa.
Oh, that was the pig.
Cujo.
So quiet and peaceful, and all of a sudden you hear this scream. Yeah, definitely that cuts through the peace occasionally.
Cow. Yep.
So we're out here again, kind of walking the garden. So I'm kind of wondering, because I'm wanting to put sort of like a cut flower area around my greenhouse.
And that's going to be right there where the pink
Yeah,
flowers are?
it's actually going to be just a little bit bigger than that, but it's going to be like a window glass greenhouse we're going to put here. And I'm really, that building that's behind it, that's going to come down.
Okay.
Our barn is getting put up at the end of this month. And I'm thinking I want to do rows kind of around here of cut flowers, because eventually, you know, it's our desire to have like a coffee house and a mercantile, and I'd love to be able to have my cut flowers in those places.
So is it when you say bigger, is it going to be there's something under the plastic right there.
Ew. Do you want to see what it is? Something is that. Be careful, it could be a snake. We have those here.
Rattlers? Yeah, rattlers? No.
Well, yeah, we have rattlers, but it's probably not.
Whatever it was.
Oh, it's a mouse. Ugh, gross.
Okay, so when you say bigger, are you talking wider or longer?
Probably just like a few feet wider and a couple feet deeper. Okay. It's right now, I think we marked out 12 by 16, but we're actually going like 16 by 20 so I can have a table in the middle.
So would you have room on either, with what you're thinking for your flowers, would you have room on either side of those for maybe some really cool flowers from Wisconsin?
Are you serious?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
I can anywhere they want to go, I can put them there.
I think I might be able to spare a few.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Some of the ones I'm testing or whatever, so I can't guarantee what they'll be, but they'll be cool.
That's awesome. I absolutely want to. So one of the things that we've done while Steve was here, we actually recorded a podcast.
My first one ever? No, second one. I'm sorry. First one was a couple months ago.
It's one of my first ones. This is something Maya and I have been working on to launch this podcast. And so we recorded a really cool podcast telling Steve's story and talking about his flowers that he's been developing for the last decade and a half. And I would be so honored to grow some of those here on my farm.
But I would expect reports on my babies weekly.
Yeah. They'll be in the videos. We'll all get to watch him grow.
Good and bad.
You know I love me some sunflowers.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, that would be absolutely awesome.
Great. Done deal.
And I'm not 100% sure what other cut flowers I'm gonna grow right here, but I'm thinking like just some rows that kind of surround this, because my glass greenhouse is going to be really a work of art. Maya's so good at building stuff, and it's going to be really beautiful.
Well, I will give you the clay in a packet, and you can be the master of how you want to do it.
I'll do that. So yeah, I'm super excited to grow some of Steve's sunflowers in my garden this year. And we actually shot a podcast while Steve was here because he's working on a really cool fundraiser with his sunflower seeds, and I'll let him tell the story. I'm hanging on to that till he can get some logistic and infrastructure stuff in place. But it's really, really cool. And I just really enjoyed the visit, getting to know him more. Y'all, there's just no graceful way to go over that fence. I'm no vaulter. Oh, so morning milking. Let's go say hey to Helen real quick. Hope. We'll just have to wait a second because Maya's making his way around here. Hey, beautiful. She is so pretty. She's looking good. She's looking... When I got jerseys, I had a couple of friends on Instagram that keep jerseys message me and say, welcome to the world of people constantly accusing you of abusing your cow and neglecting your cow, because jerseys are bony cows. Hey, Hope. Oh, she said back up, Gabriel. All right, let's get some breakfast. And Helen was a little bit thin when we got her. She's still maybe a little bit thin, but she's dry. She is pregnant, but we're not milking her, and she's got the next little bit to put on some weight, so I'm not really super concerned about the way that she looks. And you know, some cows, goats too, are just harder keepers. I have a couple of goats that they stay on the skinny side even though they don't have worms, even though they don't have lice. And then I have some goats that, and they're hefty. And so, you know, if you had a dairy cow, like a Jersey cow, that looked like a beef cow looks, you would have an unhealthy cow. That's not something that you want out of a dairy. But I still do occasionally panic a little bit whenever I see them and how bony they are. I remember the first time that I was like really up close with a Jersey. There was a farm in Arkansas near our house, and I stopped once just to chat and ask questions, and they introduced me to their Jersey, and I remember seeing her and she walked by, and like how much of their kind of like hip area and just around their tail, I remember just being like mortified and being like, oh my gosh. And the lady must have seen the look on my face, because she was like, hey, that's actually normal. And she actually got some pictures out and showed me the different body grades, like how the shape of their hips is supposed to be, how many ribs is normal to be able to see. And I mean, I appreciated her educating me and not taking offense at the fact that, honestly, I was probably showing some judgment in my face. Now, I was prepared in going with this breed and having a public platform that we would probably get a certain measure of comments. And we have, and it's okay. They're healthy. They're well cared for. And any animal that comes to us that's not as fully healthy as I'd like, it's always my first goal to get them to the point of health that I want to see. All right, guys, I'm going to try to give you this view. Thanks, Hope. Thanks, girly. We didn't put Hope up until a little later last night because we went out to dinner for my birthday. So I probably got a gallon and about maybe like 1 3/4 gallon this morning, because she actually had not been isolated from honey for a full 12 hours. Back up, Helen. Go on, honey. I am getting more comfortable around cows. I was really intimidated when I first got them here. Miss Helen, she is a pretty girl. Isn't she just a doll? She's very petite. She's much smaller all over than Hope is. I'm hoping she's not a bear to milk when her milk comes in, because her teats are pretty small, but we'll see. We are planning on getting a machine at some point before. Probably need to look into it. But having a machine to be able to milk her, and if you guys can hand milk to machine milk, so if we need to machine milk her, we can. She's looking good though. You know, another thing, like I mentioned how she looked kind of skinny when she got here. She already looks a lot better, just because she probably just was stressed from not, you know, from moving that day. They show that kind of stuff quick. But I'm feeling really good about her. I think that we made a good purchase. With Hope, I bought her from a friend. I bought her from somebody that I knew and trusted. And with Honey, I did not know the people personally. And so there was documentation of breeding and testing, but there's still a measure of like trust involved in that, and being like, okay, I'm gonna just, you know, to make this purchase and hope that I'm making a good purchase. But I'm feeling really good about her now that I've gotten to really handle her a lot. She's very docile, very, very gentle and sweet, and that is really nice. And they told me that, and so I'm feeling really confident about the other things they told me as well. Oh, sweet Maya's going after the renegade chicken. So up here is our barn pad. You can see, and my dad worked on all the drainage around this whenever he was here last month for Thanksgiving. And so this pad is level. It's like, I think 40 by 60-ish or so. That's what our barn is. And you can see there's like a drop that's going to come in behind it. We've had kind of a hard time with like nailing this down, which is funny because, you know, we tried to put a barn up at our old house and it just got delayed because of COVID, and we ended up canceling it because, you know, Nate and Jill were buying the house and they were really gearing more towards like plants and gardens, and they had no need for like a big workshop slash barn. So we canceled that order, and this one is taking a while too, but everything's in and it's being started on December 23rd. Obviously it won't be completely done because there will be a break for Christmas for the crew, and then they'll pick it back up after Christmas. So that'll be up soon. We've had really warmish weather the last few days, which is nice, but I'm excited to get that up and finish the fencing that we're gonna put up that's permanent, so we can start like rotating our pastures, keeping all our milking stuff up here in the barn, and just kind of like doing all of this the way that our vision is to do it, not in this temporary way. Hey girls. Hey May May. Hey pretty lady. Hello Honor. Hey Honor. Oh, hey pretty girl. Another question I've been getting a lot lately is, are you still milking the goats? And we actually dried our goats off before we moved here because I knew we wouldn't have a place set up. We wouldn't have a stanchion built. And so we went ahead and dried them all off. The buck has been in with them, and so they will start kidding in about March. You gonna have some babies, girls? Miriam, you gonna have some babies? So I put them all with the La Mancha buck because I don't have a Nubian buck that can be bred. And so some of them that are La Manchas, the goats that have no ears, they'll have you know, pure La Mancha babies, and then the others will have mixes. I have La Manchas, Nubians, and one Sauna, and they're all dairy breeds. And so even the mixes, they'll be really good milkers. I like goat's milk. The reason I originally got into goats was, one, we had our property in Arkansas was really rocky, and when we moved onto it, it was almost entirely wooded, and we ended up doing a lot of clearing there to help establish more like pasture type space. But it was more suited for goats, especially when we first got there. And also my children as babies had dairy sensitivities, and they were able to drink goat's milk, whereas they were not able to drink cow's milk. And they've all kind of grown out of that, and they don't have the same issues that they used to when they were little. But we drank goat's milk pretty exclusively for at least a few years, but I do prefer cow's milk more. I really have leaned towards the La Mancha goats because their milk is really kind of sweet, and it has less of a goat milk flavor than the other milk. And it has to do with butter fat and all of that. And I'm curious to see this year what being on this much pasture does to the flavor of all their milk. But my plan right now is that I have 2 La Manchas that are really good producers, that one of them is not a good mom, so she's not going to raise her kids, and I will need to milk her. And so I'm going to milk those 2 La Manchas, and I'm thinking for my other goats, Miriam will have to be milked, but I'm playing some things out. I have a friend who has a child that is really wanting to get into goats, and I've thought about maybe sending a couple of my girls over there where they can really like be a blessing to a family and be really fully used. But right now, I'm attached to them. I don't want to just sell them. I mean, I've had these goats for like 6 years. They're kind of pets to me. But I also don't want them to be wasted, you know, like, so I'm kind of playing around with what I'm going to do. I think I'd like to have some goat's milk for, like, soap making. It's good for that. And then also for some cheese making. And then we'll probably continue to drink the cow's milk. And then, of course, I've got the cow's milk for all of the butter and the yogurt and the cream. I am just playing around with what I'm going to do. I still bred them because then at least there will be more goats in the spring. We also are working with our neighbors. They have a lot of trees. We've talked about maybe putting up some electric fencing and letting them browse that, because that would be, they would love that. And maybe like just having this herd that's more of a brush herd and letting them just raise their own kids and multiply that way. I don't know yet. I know for a lot of people they get into cows and they immediately get rid of their goats, but I've already downsized this herd a lot, and I really just have the ones that I'm fairly attached to, so I'm not making any quick decisions on them. With the amount of space we have now, I mean, our 27 acres, but then also having neighbors that have a lot of space that are, you know, wanting to work with us and allow us to use different spaces that are currently just now overgrown and stuff, or pastures. We've even, you know, talked about working together on some beef cows and stuff. Having that kind of resource, I don't have the crunch that I used to have when it comes to animals like this. Like, keeping them is not irresponsible stewardship to our land. It's not overtaxing our land. It's not super expensive to keep them because there's so much for them to eat. And so it gives me the ability to be kind of like, I'm gonna wait and see. I'm not gonna make any fast decisions. Hey, sweet Maya, you straining the milk?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where the filters are.
Hold on, I saw him.
Well, I remember sticking them somewhere. I just can't remember where. There.
Oh, look at that. I got a different strainer that we can strain directly into the mason jars. Just make it a little faster. You don't like it as much?
Slower.
Oh.
So like you have to like pour it and wait, and then you're like judging, did I pour too much as the milk's getting close to the top, and it overflows, and then you realize you did pour too much.
I've got to go to the doctor this morning. I just wanted to take you around on a little walk because I've just been putting up content so irregularly this month. It's kind of weird, like on YouTube, because our channel is so garden focused so much of the time, and spring and summer really are like times that we make a lot of content. And because of that and the YouTube algorithms, I want to show up regularly for the faithful people who follow our journey year round. But it is like the best time of year for us to rest without it hurting our channel so much. So, you know, I've learned now, I guess this is what our fourth winter to go through on YouTube. It's crazy. That is crazy. But it's our fourth winter to go through. And I've really learned how to just like slow down and not force myself. But I do want to show up because so many of you have become so dear to us. Like I said, I mean, just things like birthdays. I sit and I think, how is it possible to, I mean, it's crazy to me. I'm like, how is it feels unfair. I'm like, why do I have so much? Like, why to be so overwhelmed with like love and support and encouragement. And I say thank you, and I know that's cheap, and I know that that's not, it doesn't convey what I really even mean, but thank you. Thank you for being here for us. And like I said, I continue to show up through this kind of like restful lull. And right after Christmas is usually when our views begin taking off again and when things really start going. And when I kind of gear back into garden planning. And this year, garden building and just putting this farm together from where it is now, which I can't really say from scratch anymore. I think we've gotten past the scratch stage. I feel like we have a legit farm out there, but we still have a lot to do. So thank you guys for hanging out with me this morning. God bless you. Until next time.